Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Once Upon a Time at the Oscars. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Once Upon a Time at the Oscars.
The show that takes you through every Best Picture nominee from 1927 to today.
I'm Kyle.
And I'm Ryan.
We are continuing coverage of the 2026 Academy Award Best Picture nominees.
We are. That's true.
Yes, thank you for the verification. Validation, that's what it is.
I got you. Today we're talking about Josh Safdie. We're talking about Marty Supreme. And in effort to do that, we want to make sure that we brought in someone who is pretty well versed in all things Safdie, Josh or Benny otherwise. And we brought in my very close friend, actually my best friend, my brother, Tim. Tim, thanks for joining us, man.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for having me all.
Yeah, man. I'm excited you were able to join. When I first asked you about joining us for one of these movies, I think your two picks here, your first was, I think you said Martin Supreme, and your second pick was Begonia. And that was the day before we recorded Begonia. So I was like, Marty Supreme it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I'm very glad.
I think it's probably a better movie for me to touch on because I guess I remember it more vividly than Begonia for some reason. I don't know why. The ending of Begonia I certainly remember really vividly, but not everything leading up to it. Marty, I have like a pretty solid memory of what happened.
Yeah, well, we got to see that together in theaters when you were in town for the Christmas break, and we were able to see Marty Supreme in theaters, which rocked. But also, you've followed the Safdies pretty closely in terms of the projects they've done. You know, we've talked about Good Time, we've talked about Uncut Gems. We saw that together too, and then we actually just before recording we were talking about Benny Safdie's most recent entry of The Smashing Machine. So correct me if I'm wrong. That's all of their entries, right?
No, they have a movie that Criterion put out that I own and I haven't watched yet called Daddy Longleg.
Oh, was that before Good Time?
Before.
Okay.
And I believe it stars, I think Josh Safdie's the main character, but I believe, what's his face? Abel Ferrara, who's in Marty.
Yeah.
I think that's the first film they worked on together.
Wow. Man, I did not realize that it went back that far. And it's actually really interesting because Benny Safdie is co-starring with Robert Pattinson on Good Time, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, yep. So they kind of switched up, which is interesting because Josh Safdie hasn't been in front of the camera for any of the movies that you've seen, right?
Correct.
Yeah, interesting. I wonder if he's any good.
Well, that's interesting because Benny Safdie has done more of, he's obviously directed The Smashing Machine, but then he mostly went on to do a lot of acting roles. I saw him, he's in the new Odyssey with Chris Nolan. He was in Oppenheimer. He's a voice in the new Super Mario's Galaxy movie, which is a thing. And he was also, Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret?
Oh.
He's the dad. With Rachel McAdams.
Wow.
I was just like, what is Benny Safdie doing on screen right now? He's good. The Curse, obviously, he was a very big part of that on TV with Emma Stone and, oh my gosh, Nathan Fielder.
Wow.
So the Safdies are all over the place. But, Josh is a very big name this race because, Marty Supreme is a very big contender, right? Like, I think everyone's talking about Timothée Chalamet with this, but it can't be overlooked that this had 9 nominations. Pretty hefty amount. So jumping right into it, Kyle, do you want to talk about those nominations?
Yeah. The 9 Oscars include Best Director for Josh Safdie, Lead Actor for Timothée Chalamet. Original Screenplay would go to Josh Safdie and his partner, Ronald Bronston, who also received, both of them received the Editing nomination. Casting for Jennifer Venditti. Cinematography for Darius Khondji. Production design for both Jack Fisk and the set deck Adam Willis. Costume design for Miyako Belize. And then Best Picture for the producers Eli Bush, Ronald Bronstein, Josh Safdie, Anthony Katagis, and Timothée Chalamet.
And speaking of Timothée Chalamet, the cast rounds out with Timothée Chalamet, Odessa Azayon as Rachel Misler, Gwyneth Paltrow as Kay Stone, the Hollywood actress. Tyler O'Connor, also known as Tyler the Creator, as Wally. That's the only name I found on here. Fran Drescher as Rebecca Mouser, and Kevin O'Leary as Milton Rockwell. So the setup for Marty Supreme, set in 1952, follows Timothée Chalamet's character Marty Mouser as a ping pong player. He wants to be the best in the world, won't stop at anything to get to that point. And the movie really is a sequence of his rise and fall, and whether that's by his hand or just by circumstance, and everything he'll go to and the people that he'll put behind him and under the bus, so to speak, to get to where he wants. So, Tim, let's start with you. What did you think about Marty Supreme?
I thought it was very good. I think it was a no-brainer for Best Picture nomination. And I think in terms of, it was stressful in the way of their other films, which has kind of been like their thing. But I thought it kind of reined it in a bit. It made it more palatable for everybody. And then I think also made it more enjoyable because you're not like, like you said, we saw Uncut Gems together and that was like extremely stressful.
Yeah.
And I didn't think Marty Supreme, I didn't feel like I was like incredibly stressed. It's just easier to enjoy. And it was just a really, really well made film.
Yeah, I agree with you. I also really enjoyed it. I feel like Josh Safdie did a thing where instead of Uncut Gems was more like, I think from the 15-minute mark of Uncut Gems to the very last scene, it was just nonstop anxiety. And with Marty Supreme, I think there's more sequences that are like extremely anxiety inducing, but they're broken up. So it's not just a continuous. One of my favorite scenes in the movie, and it's in the first teaser trailer that they dropped, and I think that's kind of cuts the tension a lot, is just after a scene where Marty and Wally have just completely tricked a bowling alley full of people and conned them into giving them more money. They have a scene where they're, I think they're dancing to, is it Fats Domino? On the radio, and they actually like Fats Waller, thank you. So they're singing, and they get out of the car, and they're actually kind of like ghostwriting it a little bit, but in 1952, and they're singing the trumpet part, and it's just so infectious to see how much fun they're both having. So little scenes like that really cut that tension, and I feel like that was something that was missing in Uncut Gems. So I agree. I think this was much more palatable. I did really enjoy it. I would watch it before watching Uncut Gems again, just because I feel like that would put me in a bad mood. But I really enjoyed this, and it's just, you can't really talk about this movie without talking about Timothée Chalamet, but we will get there. Kyle, what did you think?
So it's interesting because I've never seen Uncut Gems. Mm-hmm. This was my first Safdie movie, period.
Oh, because you saw this before The Smashing Machine.
Yes. So everybody that has rightfully so compared it to Uncut Gems and been like, this was either easier to watch or it was matched with the level of chaos and stress from Uncut Gems. This is what I've got. I can't compare it to anything. And I think that the stress levels were very high because, again, I have nothing to compare it to. I enjoyed the movie. It's one of these weird movies where you're kind of following the villain in a way. Timothy's character he's not a great dude. He's awful to everybody. Everything he does in the movie, everything he says in the movie is pretty despicable. So it's one of those where you have to kind of force yourself to love to hate this guy to find any kind of enjoyment in the film. And I think the way that the events were presented, it did after a while start to feel like, here's this awful experience. Okay, we're through that. Now here's another one to pile on. And it almost felt just like sequence after sequence of, we're going to do this for almost like the shock value. So it was a little exhausting for me, but not just because of the stress, more of how it was presented to stress me out, if that makes sense.
It does. I'm thinking about not having the knowledge of Uncut Gems under my belt when we saw Marty Supreme, because, not to spoil anything with Uncut Gems, but when I watch a Safdie movie now, I'm kind of like, oh, what's this? This can't be good. Like, this isn't going to end well for whoever's involved here. So when you watch Marty get into these perilous situations, it's never like, oh, he's going to get out of it. It's fine. You're kind of waiting for like the other shoe to drop. So I was prepared for that. And, I think Tim was too, with everything, all the research or the prior movies you've seen of the Safdies. So I wonder if I would have felt the same way if this was the first entry for me walking into it. But I definitely think it's a hero story. I think you mentioned villain, and he is an anti-hero in a sense, but at the same time, they introduced like the real villains of the story, which are like the Kevin O'Learys and the Abel Ferreras, like the people oppressing and holding down Marty from like keeping his dream. So I did very much like it. I agree with you. There's the first scene that I felt like I was just ready to kind of like crawl under my chair was the hotel bathroom or the hotel bathtub scene,
right,
of that movie of Marty Supreme, and that's when I was like, okay, this is what I kind of expected from a Josh Safdie picture. But it's also kind of strange that this is the first time that Timmy and Josh Safdie have worked together, because it does seem like a really good pairing. Like Timmy is going for it in this movie. Tim, what were your prior thoughts to Timothée Chalamet walking into Marty Supreme?
I kind of think he's the GOAT currently. I think he's the man. I think he's good in everything he's in, which is funny because I remember seeing that movie. It's called like Hot Summer Night or something.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, all right. Like, I didn't think he was like remarkable. And so I don't really know when the switch flipped, but like, I just think I loved A Complete Unknown. I thought it was really well done. I thought his performance was just like, he just like sunk into it. And then I think he did, Dune's great. And then Marty Supreme, I think he just like acted his butt off. But yeah, I don't know. I think he's really good. And I think at this point we can kind of trust him in anything.
I 100% agree with you. I think I've heard the term 4-quadrant actor a lot when you talk about like people who can like really hold the Hollywood placement, and you want someone who can really do drama but can also do kind of like an action, but can also do a comedy, but can also do like family. And with Timmy, like he's pulling out like Complete Unknown, he's pulling out Dune, he's pulling out like Lady Bird, Little Women, like doing great work there. And then the real moment that for me, not this movie alone, but just the fact that he did it, the moment where I was like, oh, this guy's a force to be reckoned with, was when he did Wonka. Like,
interesting.
When he did Wonka and he did a Paul King movie, and I was like, he's like doing good work, but it's for like children and families, and he's singing, because this was before Complete Unknown. Like, my guy is getting it. Like, you can do Dune and you can do Complete Unknown, not at that time. You can do Lady Bird and you can do Wonka. Like, you are all around, whatever you need to do, you're doing great at it. And it's worth pointing out that for Marty Supreme, he did the research. He spent years training to be a ping pong player, or table tennis. So he's doing the work. He was playing infamously guitar on set of Dune to prepare for Complete Unknown.
Yeah.
So you don't see a lot of people going to the lengths that he's going to. And I think this just kind of solidifies him a bit for me. That leads me to something we'll talk about a little bit later here about what I think his chances are. But Kyle, what do you think about his performance?
It's not my favorite of his performances. I think he's great. So last year, infamously, during his Oscar run with A Complete Unknown, he had that acceptance speech where he said, I want to be one of the greats. I am one of the greats. I should be compared to Michael Jordan and all of these other like huge celebrities and athletes. And when he did that, I was like, yeah, this is cool, because you should be proud of your work, especially if you're performing at that level. However, the further we've gotten away from that, the more I'm kind of like, take it easy. Just calm down a little bit. You're going a little too hard.
Do you mean in terms of like the press?
Yes.
Okay.
And not even the press for the movie, because I didn't see any of it. I didn't see the Zoom call, which I actually think is kind of interesting. He essentially made like a short film.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Yeah. It's really unique and creative, but I think everything else, like I've just all the little interviews and things where I've continued to hear him just double down on the, I'm one of the greatest. I'm putting in the work. I deserve this. I think he's just going too hard. And that unfortunately is starting to bleed into his performances, I think, for me. I say that with this being the first thing I've seen since A Complete Unknown that he's worked on. I don't know. It's a great performance. I think it is one of those where it feels like 95% improv, where he's got a general idea of how the scenes are supposed to play out, and then he's just kind of running his mouth, which works well for this movie. So I think it's unfair for me to like criticize it at all, because it's so believable because of the level of improv that it feels. But I think his persona is starting to weigh on me a little bit.
Well, Tim, you had mentioned previously when we were talking about his off pod, when we were talking about his character work that a lot of the press that he did for this was supposed to be in character of Marty. Is that right?
Yes. So I felt very similar where just kind of like, oh, he's at the very beginning of it, the really press run for Marty. I was like, he's like being really cocky and kind of crazy and almost like borderline, like maybe he's not doing so well, but like, because it was just so over the top. But then you see the movie, and then he's said in interviews like he's essentially like trying to be in character while like promoting it, and that's kind of the character, right? He's like overzealous, he's cocky, he's like a jerk, but it's really interesting because he's not like getting up on podcast stuff being like, I'm from the 50s. He's like, he's doing it like he's taking that like
The spirit.
I don't know if machismo, yeah, exactly, the spirit of it, and like bring it into himself, like who he is now. So I think that's cool. And he's also like, Brian, was it you that watched some award show recently and said he like dropped all that?
Yeah, it was
like, humble and normal.
It was the Critics' Choice Awards. He won, and he just kind of dropped it all together and was just like, thanks, I really appreciate it, shout out to my love, and then shouted out Kylie, and that was it. So he kind of dropped it there. But up until that point, it was 100% what you're talking about.
Wow. And I wonder if that, like him receiving that specific award is like there was no fanfare because he's like, this isn't the one that I'm going for. Like, I don't really care about this one. I'm for the Oscar.
The face that he made when he received the Critics' Choice Award was kind of like, all right, cool. The term that I thought of immediately when he made that face was like, game, like time to play ball. Like that was him being called up, essentially.
Yeah.
Right? Like, hey, I'm being called up, and now I need to hit the home run. Like with this whole run that I'm doing. So I do think, we'll go ahead and jump into this. I do think that he's going to win. The only thing that and Kyle, I'm really excited to talk to you about this. I have been since I saw this movie. The only thing that I could see going against Timothée Chalamet is that you cannot deny his performance. This is an undeniable performance. He is so good in this movie. He says some things in this, and this is more the screenplay that we can talk about, that I don't really feel comfortable repeating on a podcast, but absolutely demolished me in theater. I was just kind of like guffawed is the best thing I could think of. And the entire theater that Tim and I were in were just like, what? Like, you're just saying some heinous things, but it was so, to Tim's point, speaking to that spirit of like, I am a winner. Like, sorry if it's controversial, but like I'm a winner and I'm going to do what it takes, which makes sense with this press run. But the thing that I'm really interested to hear you talk about, Kyle, is that the Academy Awards don't always recognize the person who gave the best performance, right? There's a lot of retroactive awarding that can happen. And Timothy is currently running against, in my eyes, two people. He's running against the king example of how we can be retroactive with our awards. Would you agree?
Oh, you're talking about Leo?
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, I was on set this past week, and specifically I got into a conversation about The Revenant and Leo's win for that, and how it's just like, this one? Really? And it is one of those things where it's like, oh, he's gone years without winning, let's give it to him now. Do you feel that that's where Timothy is this year?
I think that we have seen across the board with directors, actors, like we've seen the Academy award people and be like, hey, sorry about not awarding you for this movie previously, but we got you this time.
Yeah.
And it's not always like you deserved it for that. Like, I think Leo deserved a win for Once Upon a Time in the podcast, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I think that he deserved it for Wolf of Wall Street. I think he's deserved it across the board. He didn't win for those.
Right.
But then The Revenant comes along, not my favorite performance of his, and he wins for that. And it feels very repetitive of, we're just going to give it to someone when we feel like they need it. Because Timothée Chalamet is also, like, he just turned 30, I think.
Yeah, he's 30 now.
He's 30 now. He has so much life ahead of him, and we're going to have, like, we probably haven't gotten the best performance out of him yet.
Right.
Like, to come. So he's got Dune 3 coming on. He's got a lot that he's working on. I have a feeling that the Academy could be like, all right, young buck, sit down. Leo's here, and he gave a great performance in One Battle After Another. We love One Battle After Another. We're going to award it all these things that it is going to get. So why wouldn't we give it to Leo?
Right.
That's the only thing that stands in the way to me. Love Ethan Hawke. I did like Wagner Moore's performance. We'll get to that in Secret Agent. And I also really liked Michael B. Jordan in Sinners, which we'll also get to. But to me, when you talk about the two best performances of the year, it really is Leo in One Battle. Well, actor. Leo in One Battle and Timmy and Marty Supreme. I think I like Timmy a bit more in it, to be honest. I think he's performing a bit more, and he has more screen time than Leo does in one battle.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about who deserves it the most. We're talking about who the Academy is going to award it to. And to me, I think it's going to be a retroactive award to Leo, and that's the only thing standing in Timmy's way.
What do you think, Tim?
Ooh, I don't know. I would be happy for it to go either way there. I just started rewatching One Battle because they put it on Max, and I think if you put the two movies together, I think Battle is better. And I think Leo is just playing a more interesting role for him. Like, he hasn't really played anything quite like that. It does kind of remind me of his character in Once Upon a Time, the movie, not the podcast. And yeah, I don't know. I think it's more like, it's a little more out there. It's like his first PTA movie, right? And I don't know. I think I would say it's a 50-50 between the two of them. Because, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think probably I would put my money on Leo. But I could see it going either way, and I think either way is fair. I mean, imagine if you're Timothy Chalamet and you lose to Leonardo DiCaprio, or you're Leonardo DiCaprio and you lose to like the it guy right now, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, there really isn't a lose-lose situation because you understand why you did. If you're either of them, I think it's a really interesting thing to look at who deserves it versus who you think the Academy is gonna recognize.
Yeah.
But I mean, we talked about his press tour. His press tour rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, and I think that's another reason why he dropped it at the Critics' Choice, is that a lot of people were like, "Hey, man, this is going to be a bit much." Like, he already didn't get a ton of great reception with his speech that you mentioned, Kyle, last year,
Right?
Which I also liked. You know, I think it brought a lot of sports to it.
Yeah.
People don't like when people call their shot, right? And when people are like, "I'm trying to be this thing." Like, it's funny. I don't know how much y'all have listened to about like interviews with like Josh Safdie, like talking about the movie. But I mean, in general, I was gonna mention earlier, we talked about he's pretty unlikable in this film. Like, Marty Supreme as a character is pretty, like, you know, nasty in a lot of ways. And I've listened to a lot of interviews with both the Safdies, and their other films always follow a protagonist that I think would be considered, you know, you could use those same words to describe them. And they like to say they're not anti-heroes, they're not villains, they're just people and they're flawed, but they love them, which I think is really interesting. Because I think I have a friend who walked out of the movie and hit Marty Supreme, hit me up and was like, "I hate that. I feel like there's a bunch of young kids in the theater, young boys, that are gonna walk out and be like, there's my personality."
Yes.
For the next few years.
Yeah. I saw a lot of that where people, I feel like I'm on the side of TikTok where like women talk about movies a lot.
Stinky boy movies.
Exactly. Stinky boy movies. But I saw a lot of people talk about like, this is going to be the new Fight Club or the new American Psycho, where it's just like these really unhinged, problematic male characters that young male adults cling to, and they're like, wow, look at everything he did and sacrificed to get to where he wanted to be. I want to be great like that. And it's like, yes, but also let's take it easy, because he is so problematic in this movie. His character is problematic. And that's why I think it's interesting that they go on a limb to say, yeah, he's not an anti-hero, he's just a flawed individual. It's like, you can't be comprised of just flaws.
Right.
To be an anti-hero.
And, you know, it's interesting because I think that this has existed for a long time, right? Like Scorsese did Taxi Driver. Like, so there's been flawed individuals that, you know, the wrong audience has been like, hey, that's my guy.
Right.
That the director's like, hey, you probably shouldn't have done that. The difference in Marty Supreme is that there really is a direction that Safdie chooses that kind of redeems the character a little bit, right? Like, whereas those other movies, they can say, yeah, nope, this guy's flawed, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
They try to redeem their characters, which I understand why you would try, but then that makes that audience that is a little more, you know, hey, this is my guy, be like, yeah, see, everything worked out really well. Not to spoil Marty Supreme, but I do think they try to redeem that character a bit more than they did in their previous entries. Or I should say Josh's previous entries.
I need to watch the previous entries.
Yeah.
Because if this was them redeeming that character, wow.
Well, you'll see.
You need to like really prepare yourself for Good Time but I think more because I recently just watched Uncut Gems too. If Marty Supreme stressed you out, that movie like is going to like hurt you. It's so like it's Marty Supreme times like 5.
Yeah.
And it's just like coming at you. I remember we saw it with our dad.
Yeah.
And we sat relatively close to the screen, and it was stressful. I remember he was like kept being like, oh god.
But correct me if I'm wrong. Like the characters in that movie are they not criminals?
Well, they are. See, that's the thing. The Safdies love to pick like flawed individuals within a not underground, but an underappreciated, potentially criminal background. So they are criminals, but kind of like above the line criminals in terms of like I'm a jewelry reseller and I make a lot of bets.
Right. Yeah, I think that's what changes it for me too. Is if you're showcasing criminals and criminal activities, I mean that's why the gangster genre is so beloved.
Of course,
obviously. I don't condone what they're doing in Goodfellas, but I'm like, yeah, I'm along for the ride. This is
really
fun.
Controversial of you to say.
I know. But when you have just a regular guy who's like, yeah, I play ping pong, but also I'm like the most detestable human being of all time, that's when it's like, oh, this is really problematic because this is ping pong. This isn't a big deal. Yeah. I don't know. But, yeah.
I do really want to talk about, like, we spent a lot of time talking about Timothée Chalamet, which is, I think, the correct way to talk about Marty Supreme, because this is his movie. But one thing I really want to talk about is, and I guess I want to let you go off a little bit here, Kyle. I want to talk about production design, because I think that Marty Supreme, the other thing that it does very well, is it really does feel like it transports you to 1952. There's a reason why I understand that people don't feel like it was fully in 1952 that I'd love to talk about. But I think the production design goes a long way here. I had read that they actually sprayed the streets and specifically the trash outside to make it look more like a wet, like lived in New York in 1952. But Jack Fisk, a huge name for the Academy, right?
Yeah. He was nominated in the past for There Will Be Blood, The Revenant, and Killers of the Flower Moon. Along with the set deck, Adam Willis, he was also part of that Killers of the Flower Moon nomination. So, and those are movies with like major production designs. Killers of the Flower Moon. Yeah, I know they're like kind of lesser known titles, but big production designs, especially in Killers of the Flower Moon, with it being like a period piece. Yeah, you can't deny that this movie, I mean, it looks like New York in the 50s. We're in New York, right? Yeah.
Right now?
No. In the movie. That'd be bad if I was like, it looks just like New York. It takes place in Chicago.
I was like, there's a chicken outside. It is for sure set in New York, 1952.
No, it looks great. It looks like the streets, like you said, they sprayed the garbage with water so that it just looked gross and fresh trash. It looks stinky. We're back to stinky boy movies. But
I would give her that Marty Supreme is 1,000% a stinky boy.
Right.
Yeah.
1,000%. Especially because you're trying to take a bath and then the bath falls apart. Like you can't even get unstinky.
That dog can't get a bath. He can't get a bath.
Poor dog.
No one's getting a bath in this.
No, but no, I 100% I agree. A cool aside with Jack Fisk, he's married to Sissy Spacek. I did not know this. Fun little fact: they worked together on Eraserhead, and Jack Fisk played the man in the moon, I think his character is called, and they both get a special thanks to both of them at the end of Eraserhead. Sissy Spacek did the
clapboard.
The clapboard, yeah.
Oh,
and I love that. I love imagining little Sissy Spacek just being like, "I'll be in Carrie soon." The
infamous word she always said. Yeah, I'll be in Carrie soon.
She's famous.
I think she said that in Bloodline too.
I'm so happy, and I should have known that you were going to call out Bloodline whenever we get on a podcast together. You and I really were like, we were the Bloodline hive. We were like telling everyone, you need to go watch Bloodline right now. And then
I tell everybody, season 1 and season 2, don't watch the other one.
Yeah, that's fine. I do remember the biggest fight that Taylor and I ever got in was after we started Bloodline. We were just like both ready to just go to war after watching that. And we're like, all right, you're the person. Yeah, so I agree. Production design was pretty fantastic here. I think the original screenplay has has a chance. I've told you my controversial opinion that I think that when we talk about who's going to win Best Picture, I think it really is between One Battle and Sinners. And I do think that they're going to respectively clean up on their, or respectively, I keep doing that, clean up on their own side of screenplay. One Battle being adapted of the Thomas Pynchon novel, and Sinners being original screenplay. So I don't think that Marty Supreme can compete in that, but I do want to call out that I think it is a good screenplay. I think that some of the detestable things that Marty is saying in this do come from the screenplay. I think the interaction he has with the characters, it doesn't feel like, Kyle, we talked about Disraeli last year. It doesn't feel like a Disraeli movie, and then he's trying to steamroll over everyone else. It really is, and that's why I think Timothy's doing such a great job in this. He is a powerhouse performer, but he is bouncing off of the other actors in his scene. Specifically, I really like him with Tyler, the Creator, Wally. I think their relationship in this is some of the most interesting moments in the movie for me. Specifically that last scene between the two of them where Marty is being pulled out by, is it Abel Ferreira, the dog owner?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So when Abel Ferreira is kind of pulling him out of the pool hall and he sees Wally from across the room, and they kind of share like one last look at each other. And that's the last that we see of Tyler, the Creator. That's why I say last. Loved that little, like, it seemed like a little heartbreak between the two of them. And I loved that aspect. So a screenplay, I do want to call it a little bit there. Costume design, when we talk about the 1950s, it makes sense the period piece is going to come into play with talking about that. Fine, good.
I think it served its purpose just as production design did. I mean, Marty Supreme is wearing like a tank top and, a unbuttoned overshirt throughout most of it. But
I'd shout out his necklace, glasses, and mustache before anything else. But
yeah. But like Gwyneth Paltrow's character, Kay Stone, the famous actress, you have that aspect of it. I think you always have the excitement when you do a period piece of just, let's make sure we're doing things either accurate or a fun interpretation of this time period. I think they went accurate with it. Probably not like the front runner for the costume award, but good job. Looks good.
Yeah, I mean, it's not bad by any means. I just think it's kind of like, of course it's good.
Right.
Like, it's not nothing too stellar. You did talk in our previous episode of when we talked about casting.
Yes.
Casting is something that I think is interesting for Marty Supreme because I really do like just about everyone in this movie. Well, all the actors, I should say. Characters, it's hard to like some of them, but I do really like the actors all around. I think the casting here was very smart. Again, to bring in Tyler Akoma, Tyler, the Creator, I thought he did a fantastic job. Kind of a controversial figure, Kevin O'Leary in this movie.
Yeah.
I am a big fan of whatever on earth he's doing in this. Can't say that translates off screen, but I think that he does a fantastic job of being that villain. He is mostly playing himself to a certain degree. He has some moments in this that I was just like hollering like a chimp in the theater, like just absolutely unreal. So he factors into that as well. Casting, I'm a big fan of.
Yeah, for sure. It's one of those things where like he shows up on screen and I'm kind of like, I don't really love this guy, but he's doing exactly what he needs to be doing for this movie, so he's kind of the perfect choice for it, which you can almost say about Gwyneth Paltrow. I'm not the biggest Paltrow fan, but I think she serves her purpose.
She was
spot on.
Surprisingly very good in this.
Yeah.
Like, she is a great actress, but you haven't seen that from her in a while, so I'm glad they got that out of her.
Yes. Yeah, much better than Shakespeare in Love.
Correct.
Yes. I wanted to say on the casting front, I think that is like this movie's maybe like strongest point.
Yeah.
I listened to some interview and they talked about Jennifer Vendetti, who been the casting director for I think all of the joint Safdie brothers films. But they talked about Josh Safdie was like, we have to get people. We refuse to have anyone in this movie that doesn't have a 1950s face. Like, if their face doesn't read like they would be someone seen in the 50s or like in a book somewhere, old photos, they cannot be in this. Like, and they really stuck to that. And then Safdie also pulled some people in, the monster Kevin O'Leary guy, because he's like, hey, this would be perfect for this role. The guy who's Marty Supreme's good friend, the heavyset guy, I forget his name.
Oh, yeah, from the video.
Yes, so that's where he found him from. Some, like, I forget the name of that. Knicks video.
I think it was a New York
Just a
sports
bunch of-
team. I think it's the Knicks.
Yeah, and he said something absurd to the camera, and he just had this like, really just chewed up the scenery of just like this one little clip, and just presents himself in a really funny way, and he was like, that guy should be in this, and so I think he went about it in a really interesting way, and I think the movie really makes you feel present and like sucked into that time because they really did cast all these people who look just like what you think of when you think of 50s, right?
You're referring to him saying that someone had a resemblance to his father, correct?
Yeah, that's a PG way of saying it.
Kyle, I'm very excited to show you that video and tell you that afterwards. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, you're right. Like, it wasn't just finding, hey, Gwyneth Paltrow would be great for this. It really is looking beyond like A-list actors and finding the people that would be fantastic for that role. I really like that the character you're talking about. I think he's another great. That's something you didn't have in Uncut Gems. Someone who kind of brings the main character into reality a little bit, puts their feet back on ground, is like saying like, hey man, look, I want the best for you and I'm doing the best that I can for you. I need you to meet me halfway on this. And of course, the unrelenting energy of the main character is that they never can, and they want to continue to soar while the other person's firmly on planet on Earth. He does a great job in that movie. It's not just a funny little role for him from that video that Tim's talking about. It really is like he is performing. So the casting, I couldn't be happier with on this. I think it does deserve the recognition here. I wouldn't be mad if it won. I just don't foresee that happening.
What do you see winning over it? Did you say that already?
Yeah, well, I think you're dead on about One Battle, Tim. I think you mentioned like, you would want to see maybe Leo win, but One Battle has a better movie overall. And I think that's because that Marty has Timothée Chalamet's performance, and that's really what I think carries that movie. Whereas One Battle is a series of performances that I think carry that overall. So I think One Battle has a real chance of taking that. But also you can't overlook the cast work in Sinners. I think those individuals, your Michael B. Jordan, Wunmi Masako, Delroy Lindo, Haley Steinfeld, Jack O'Connell? Sure. Yeah, let's say that. I'm pretty sure that's correct. I thought the work they did was incredible as well. Like, that's another one where you can't have that movie without the whole team. While I like the casting a lot in Marty Supreme, I do think that it's Timmy's movie, and you could potentially put other people in those other roles, and it's still pretty good. But that's not to speak badly of them. I think they're fantastic. They're just up against some powerhouse movies where, and this is what's really exciting, Kyle, to your point of what we talked about earlier. This is the first year where casting has been an award. So It's not even like they made these movies being like, hey, casting's going to come up now, so it's got to happen. It's really interesting that it comes in a year where there's movies. I would even kind of argue Hamnet is a pretty great cast as well.
Yeah.
There's great entries this year, more than I can imagine any other year.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I would say more than any other year, but I think now because we have this award, like it's kind of forcing you to look at the cast as a whole, which is really exciting. One of the coolest things I think so far doing the research this year has been looking at the casting nominations and then diving into the people nominated, Jennifer Vendetti in this case, and just seeing what they've done in the past and being like, wow, so much work that should have been praised throughout the years that is just now getting recognition. Jennifer Vendetti might not be the best example here. She's fairly new. You mentioned previous Safdie movies she did. She also did the casting for Euphoria.
Oh.
Which is pretty cool.
I didn't know that.
She has a book that she released in 2022 as well that I would like to read. Can I ask you a question? The Art and Alchemy of Casting.
I mean, those are all pretty interesting things to kind of have under your cap to potentially take this first win.
Yeah. I mean, this is one of those where I wonder... You could almost make the argument, like we were talking about Leo and the acting and everything, whose previous work has gone unrecognized because the award hasn't existed. I wonder if that'll play into it at all. Well, I think it was the Hamnet casting director that we were like, yeah, they did Star Wars, and it was either that or...
Nina Gold.
Nina Gold, yes. Yeah. Just, I don't know. I don't know if that'll play into the awards at all, or if it'll just be... specifically this movie and what they did for this movie.
Interesting. I hope so.
Kyle, to your point, and what was kind of mentioned earlier too about, some people seem to get, they'll pick up an award and it kind of seems like it's for some things that they've done in the past, not just the movie, really like their whole body of work. Y'all should look up, if you haven't already, I just looked up while we were talking about it, the casting director of Sinners, Francine Meisler. Mm-hmm. She's been the casting director on over 200 movies. And like it's I mean, she did Ella McKay, so she should win for that. But she did most of True Detective. Like it's honestly, looking through this, it's nuts. The Dune movies, just everything you can think of. It's crazy. So I feel like, just like you said, if Vendetti's done great work, but is relatively new compared to some of the other people they're up against. So if I'm her, I'm looking at the lineup and being like, I'm not getting this award. Like I'm gonna have to like really earn this over time. You know what I mean?
I think that's really interesting, because then if you apply that same logic to the other awards, then it kind of changes the landscape of expecting a Timothée Chalamet win, right? Because like you look at the longevity, and that's what the Academy tends to do. To your point, Tim, like they tend to look at the career that you've had and like, hey, do you deserve basically a lifetime achievement award behind this great performance that you gave this year? That tends to be where they look sometimes, more recently than before. But absolutely, I think that's a real possibility. Casting is really interesting. I think most people will look at casting and say, yeah, I like the cast of that movie a lot. I think they all did a great job. That's not necessarily what they're looking for, right? They're talking about the actual art of casting these individuals, and did you choose the right people? So I think you're dead on. There's a real, like, I wouldn't say it's going to go to one person specifically. I would think that they may tend to use casting as above the line as a nomination, and that would go towards splitting the leads of the movies that are going to get the most. In my eyes, I could totally be wrong on that. That's just my projection. Before we hop off casting, I do want to make sure we talk about Odessa Azayan. I thought she was kind of a powerhouse in this. I think that someone who can match Timothée Chalamet's energy is difficult. Like someone who can kind of bring him down to earth, but also like meet him halfway. Yeah. We talked a lot about other actors in this movie who can kind of like bring him down a little bit, even though Wally is helping him kind of like rile him up a little bit or get riled up by Marty. I think that there's a real split between the Rachel character, where Rachel is trying to keep him grounded, but then I think maybe by the halfway point of this movie is kind of in the ride with him and like going as far as he wants to go, because now she's just all in. And I thought she did remarkable in this. I've seen her before. She's currently in a show I know Tim's watching right now, or has watched, I Love L.A. And I'm interested to hear your thoughts on it, but I thought she was incredible in this.
Yeah, she was so good in Marty. And I mean, you bring up I Love L.A., she's so much better in that.
Really?
She's just like, she's given a character that's like probably the most fun character in the series, where she's just like this like influencer who's like you like her and you're on her side, but she's also like nuts. And she plays that really well. But then I think in juxtaposition to her character in Marty Supreme, you just really see the range that she has. And I do think she was like perfectly casted for that role, because she's got this thing about just her acting style where it's like you're in the scene when she's in it, because you're just the delivery of her lines, I think, is just feels so sincere. But I think she was perfect in this movie, just like you said, kind of, especially in juxtaposition with Marty Supreme. Yeah. I guess it's funny to call him that. But what's his name in the movie?
Mauser.
Mauser. Way less cool name. What if the movie was called Marty Mauser?
Well, I think unfortunately it would definitely be confused with Mighty Mouse, or Mickey Mouse or something. So that's probably why they did it. But Kyle, what did you think
of Odessa?
Yeah,
she's fantastic.
Yeah,
she's so good.
I think that in any other year, or rather in a year where it's not as cramped with great performances on supporting actress, I would say she has a very, very real chance. But I mean, we'll talk about the other nominations later on, but just a lot of competition that I'm not sure. Was she nominated? I know she was not. Okay, that's interesting, because she was nominated at the Golden Globes.
Right.
But she wasn't nominated here. Again, speaking to the competition, but even more so why I think her name needs to be mentioned, because I thought she was well deserving of that nomination.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to say it real quick. Elle Fanning, I would have rather have seen Odessa in this spot than Elle.
Do you have like a parking lot outside I can invite you in afterwards? Or like, where do you...
I mean, first of all, Sentimental Value got 2 nominations in the supporting category.
True, yeah.
And I think that always kind of works against a movie and the chances of that winning in that category anyway. So I think they should have just campaigned for, what is it? Inga Ipsdotter Lilius?
Yeah.
Should have just went with her. I think she's...
insane performance.
Yeah. And then just, Odessa could have gotten a nomination, and it would have been great.
We'll talk about it on the sentimental episode or sentimental value episode. Well, actually, both things. But I do think that one performance is a powerhouse performance, like it's just all around. I think there's a really subtle performance that Elle Fanning is giving in that movie. We'll talk about it. So I do like her nomination there, but I agree. It's kind of surprising not to see a nomination for Odessa in this role. So
Yeah.
worth talking about to go see her performance for that for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that is interesting though. That the two of the leads in Sentimental Value were nominated and she wasn't. That I'm looking at the nominees and it's pretty tight though. But I want to ask y'all real quick off topic.
Yeah.
Who do you have for Best Supporting Actress this year?
Oh, I mean, Inga Ipstar Lilius, I think for me is my vote. I think she's absolutely crushing it in that. Now, I mean, Kyle, do you want to talk to the nominations real quick?
Yeah, sure. The two we mentioned from Sentimental Value are Elle Fanning and Inge Ipstadter Lilius. Then you have Amy Madigan in Weapons, which I'm surprised that wasn't your go-to right away.
Well, that's who I want to win. That's
Right.
not who I think is going to win.
Wunmi Masako in Sinners, and then Tiana Taylor in One Battle After Another.
I think that Tiana could take it, and it's worth mentioning that the first awards that are given out in the night are the Best Supporting Actor and Actress. So those tend to be the splash of like, hey, how interesting are the awards going to be tonight?
Yeah.
I think to me it's between Inga and Tiana. I would really like to see Inga take the win on this because I think she's doing an incredible. It's similar to Jessie Buckley we talked about last episode with Hamnet. Like I think she's giving a performance that really does tend to like hinge on the final kind of couple moments for her. Not fully, but I think that there is a huge realization in the character in those final scenes. And I think it's the same thing for Inga in Sentimental Value. I think the interaction she has with her sister at the end there really is kind of the reveal that kind of unlocks the whole movie for me of a conversation of like how she wasn't as affected by her childhood as her sister was. Just her crying, like not even like a video, just a photo of her crying has just kind of like reduced me to tears.
Yeah.
So I think she's giving one of my favorite performances, and I would love to see her win. But also, speaking very shortly, but we'll get to her episode next week. Tiana Taylor is just kind of undeniable in her limited screen time on One Battle. Kyle, who do you have?
Odessa. I really
She's
think
just gonna
she should have
sneak
been
in there.
nominated. Yeah, it's so weird. I think she probably was my favorite of just the performances I saw in the supporting actress category, but she didn't get nominated. So, I don't know. Yeah, Tiana Taylor, I would say.
You're like Odessa, but I guess Tiana.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like this is one where I'm like, you didn't pick my team, so I'm not really watching the Super Bowl.
In the immortal words of Alec Baldwin in 30 Rock, we count that, and we're going to take that as a win or a vote for Amy Madigan in Weapons. So thank you for your vote.
Oh, okay, great.
Tim, who do you have?
Well, it's tough because I ran into Elle Fanning at an ice cream shop at the SCAD Film Festival last year. And then I ran into Tiana Taylor at a thrift shop in Atlanta a couple years ago. So I'm close with both of them.
Yeah, right.
But, One Me, it was incredible in Sinners. But Amy Madigan was the love interest in Uncle Buck. So have to go with Amy Madigan. And I just think that would be like earth-shattering for like horror, right? And her performance made that whole movie. That was like the scariest performance of all time. And I've watched it, I saw it in theaters 3 times, I think. That performance is just like out of control. Even if you don't like horror, if you just were to see those scenes, you'd be like, wow, they found an actual witch.
That's a great point, and honestly, that kind of is the definition of the splash I was talking about, of like how they really want to make like, hey, you should probably continue to watch the Oscars, and an Amy Madigan win is a way to do that. I would love to see that. I think Amy Madigan has existed in Hollywood for a very long time. The Academy likes to, like I mentioned, recognize the people who have had longevity and great careers, and they love an underdog story. And I think the absolute underdog in this category is Amy Madigan. So I think Amy Madigan is closer to 3rd place than 5th for me in terms of who I think will win. But I would love to see that win happen. I hope you're right.
Yeah.
It'd be so cool.
As we wind down here, are there any other categories that you want to speak on a little bit more about these, Kyle? Because I do think we've highlighted the ones that I think have some real chances for Marty Supreme come Oscars night. But I mean, 9 nominations means it's across the board pretty nicely.
Yeah, I think the only one we didn't specifically talk about was cinematography with Darius Kanji. I don't really see this winning the cinematography category. I do want to point out, though, that he's done some incredible work. He's been nominated for Evita in 1996, Bardo, False Chronicle of a Handful of Truths in 2022 that I saw, have zero memory of.
Yeah, I love that you saw it, but you still had to like hold the paper close to be like, is this the full name?
Well, that speaks more on my handwriting than my memory. But he also shot Delicatessen, 7, and the 2012 Best International winner, Amour.
Very interesting that he filmed 7. I think there's some like little remnants of 7 in some of these shots here.
Yeah, for sure. That's like sad, sweaty boy movie.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, you just described David Fincher, but yeah.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
My guy. Yeah, and that goes for director too. You know, I think that Josh Safdie, this felt like a Safdie movie, but I feel like that doesn't translate to anyone who isn't a fan of their work.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't feel like the movie like stands on the direction, right? More just, again, I think this is a character study, but not a vain character study where it feels like Disraeli of, hey, I'm just going to steamroll everyone in this movie. That's not me. It does feel like he bounces off people. So I did appreciate that performance a lot more than like a George Arliss.
Yeah.
Hey, fellas, can I ask a question real quick?
Of course.
Thank you so much. So, original score.
Yeah.
Do you guys feel that Marty Supreme was robbed?
It's a good question. I think I ultimately agree with Kyle. Not really. I do think it deserves some conversation about the score. I think Uncut Gems was a little bit more electronic, but I think that a lot of people, rightfully so, have some complaints about the score of this movie because the score, the vernacular, something you've brought up, Kyle, and the songs that are put into it, like the licensed songs, kind of are at odds of what the time period is of this movie, right? Like it is 1952, but the score is a little more electronic, which does not feel 1952. The songs that are dropped, Tears for Fears, Forever Young, don't fit that time frame. Some of the vernacular that they use doesn't feel like 1952. I think there's some really interesting theories as to why that might be. I'll mention those off pod. They're a little more spoiler, but I think the score is good. I just don't know that it can hold a candle to the other 5 nominees that we currently see.
Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything you just said.
Is there a nominee that is included for best score, Tim, that you would want to see out in place of Marty Supreme?
Well, I haven't seen Hamnet. The Frankenstein score I don't remember that doing much for me, but it was a Guillermo movie, so I'm sure the score was awesome. And then... Yeah, I mean, okay. It was definitely it was a Guillermo movie.
It had music.
To what extent?
There was music.
Yeah, it had music. I kind of can't remember. Y'all just did Begonia. What was the Begonia score? Was it? I don't remember it.
The Begonia score we talked about, was very effective, but like it had moments of like explosions where it just kind of like just erupted.
It was like constant bee humming, basically, followed by just, hey, listen, get punched in the face.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty awesome. I don't think Marty Supreme deserved the nomination. However, if it got nominated over Frankenstein, I would have been okay with it.
Yeah.
Because I imagine Frankenstein was just some like strings, like.
Yeah, you pretty much just.
I don't think there was enough. Honestly, it could have used more of that.
Really?
Yeah. Lots of strings.
That movie could have used a little more of a lot.
Oh. This is being recorded before we drop our Frankenstein episode, but let it be known that Tim just absolutely nailed everything we mentioned in our episode.
Yeah, pretty accurate.
Everything could have been done better.
The fact that I'll let you keep going. The fact that Frankenstein is up for Best Picture. Come on now. Come on now.
I think you're doing such a great job of tying the theme together on this, Tim, because I think that's another, legacy. I think that's the Academy honoring the legacy of Del Toro and how well he has been received at the Oscars previously. And why wouldn't we nominate a Scorsese movie? Why wouldn't we nominate a Spielberg movie? Why wouldn't we nominate Del Toro? I think that's a big part of it. I'm not going to complain too much because I think between Frankenstein, Sinners, Amy Madigan's nomination for Weapons, and The Ugly Stepsister in makeup and hairstyling makes it one of the most horror prevalent years we've seen in Academy history, which is very, very, very fun and something I love to see. But I do wish it was a bit better across the board with Frankenstein. I agree.
Yeah. Yeah, as we mentioned. One real quick thing. Well, it probably won't be quick, but I'm throwing it out anyway.
We'll see.
Before we start wrapping up, last year was the Brutalist, right? Or was that the year prior? I think that was last year.
It was last year.
Hi, we're an Oscar podcast. We're well informed.
I always, this isn't going to surprise anyone who knows me, but I'm always like pre or post Oppenheimer. So I'm like, Brutalist was post Oppenheimer, so it's last year. Yeah, it was last year.
Gotcha. Brutalist to me last year was the movie where, as we got closer to the Academy Awards, it seemed like there was a little bit more and more controversy that came out with the use of AI for Adrian Brody's
Hungarian
accent, yeah, and all of that. And then even as the Oscars wrapped up, there was the controversy with just his speech and kind of the cockiness of that. Do you think that Marty Supreme this year is going to be that film where, as we get closer to the awards, there's going to be more and more controversy around it? Because there kind of was going into it with the casting of Kevin O'Leary. I know there was talk about AI on some front. I should have looked into that before we started recording. I don't know how that played out, so don't quote me on all of that. But now we talked about it a little bit before we started recording, some controversial stuff coming out about the Safdie brothers and the filming of Good Times and a minor that was on set there. Even Timothée Chalamet himself. There's a lot of controversy just in the way that he has promoted the film and things. Oh, and Odessa had a controversy recently about being cast in a film where she was not of the proper race, and she released herself from that movie.
Right.
So how do you guys feel about just all of that in general?
I think that it is definitely going to be the most controversial film of the year in terms of the Academy Awards. I don't think that lends itself to... I don't think there's going to be further controversy. I mean, look, I reserve the right to be wrong on that. I hope there's no more controversy around that movie. But I think ultimately that's going to stop it from winning some of these 9 nominations. I don't think that... There's a real chance that Timothy may not get the win here because of the spirit of Marty that he's channeled in his press tour that he's done for this movie. But I do still think that he has a real chance to win this, the way he's kind of turned things around recently with like dropping that spirit. I agree with you that I don't think that controversy bodes well for the other nominations. And I am happy with the Odessa situation because it seems like she did catch it pretty early on. She's like, "Oh, hey, good point. I'm going to remove myself from that movie."
Yeah.
So I think that was handled appropriately. I can't speak to the AI part. I'm not sure. I haven't heard a ton about that.
Yeah,
but, I mean, that unfortunate if that's true. But I agree. I think that everything that's happening with the Safdies right now, and then the Kevin O'Leary casting, which is just more of an opinion than anything.
Sure.
I do think that's going to limit some of its chances in winning in those categories. I wonder if it's going to affect Timmy with his nomination for Best Actor. Tim, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think any of the controversies seemingly haven't gotten the amount of exposure that I think that they would need to really like affect it. Because I've seen I actually haven't read like the full details of the Safdie situation, but I feel like that they haven't been super prominent. Like I haven't seen them many places. I don't hear a lot of people talking about them. So for some reason they just didn't catch. I like the kind of steam that other situations have. So I don't know. I'd be curious. I'd be curious to see. But also, I always think about stuff like that. There's so many people involved in it, and like it sucks to taint the picture that way, but it does to an extent, right? Whether that's the people voting on it or just people's kind of there's movies we look back on that I'm sure we would say that movie name and then just think of some controversy around it.
Sure.
For example, the Twilight Zone movie, right? Which
Sure.
I think is pretty good, but when you think of it, you think of people who died filming it, right?
Yeah.
It's a great
Absolutely.
point. That's definitely not the first thing that popped in my head with what we've been talking about within last year's Oscars, but that's true.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just brought up Seven, and there's that whole element with Kevin Spacey.
True.
Great movie, but now when you watch it, you're like, whoa, look who it is.
Yeah.
But
That's one way to
Yeah,
look
he
at it.
really did that to a lot of movies. A lot of movies I put on, and I'm like, oh God,
Yeah.
it's
Pretty rough.
him.
One movie that I think we're not missing in the divorce on that is K-Pax. K-Pax, rest in peace, Bozo.
I don't know what that is.
That's my most controversial take on this podcast is K-Pax.
Is it?
Rip Bozo. Have fun. You're not missing anything. I'd rather pay it forward.
feel like
Hive
I'm missing everything.
is where I'm at on that.
Oh, Pay It Forward would be dark to watch now.
Yes, it would.
All
100%.
about
Yeah.
morals, being a good person. He's the main character.
Yeah, and they're just like, hey, don't you feel so bad for Kevin Spacey in this movie? And now you're like, not really. So, wrapping up here, one thing that we like to do here, Tim, is, well, you know what? This doesn't feel fair. Final thoughts on Marty Supreme. Any final thoughts you want to share?
Yeah, I just think it was awesome. And I was a fan. And like you mentioned earlier, Ryan, I just watched Smashing Machine recently. And much like with the Coens, we kind of saw who has the juice and who doesn't.
Yeah.
In their career divorce. I hope they get back together, honestly. But it would be cool to see what else Josh Safdie will do, because I think the direction on this and just the overall like finished product was just like, to me, endlessly rewatchable. I could watch this. I can't wait to watch this movie again.
I'm very excited for you to see Uncut Gems, Kyle, because I do think you're going to be like, where's Marty? Bring Marty back.
Yeah, I don't know, but I don't know.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Maybe I like it more than F1. Who knows? All right, so let's talk a bit about our double features. Tim,
I'm sorry. Do you want to knock out ratings first to just like
I do.
completely close the door on Marty
I appreciate
Supreme?
you. Thank you for keeping me honest. Yeah, please go ahead.
So I gave Marty Supreme a whopping 3.5 stars.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Probably lower than everybody here.
Tim, do you remember what you gave Marty Supreme on Letterboxd, or do you want me to tell you because I have your Letterboxd up?
Oh yeah, tell me what I put.
You and I actually rated it the same way. I forgot that your profile picture on Letterboxd is Death from Bill and Ted Face the Music, or Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. You and I both were 4.5 stars.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, I stand by that.
Yeah, I think that's right. It's a powerhouse performance. Undeniable is a great word that we've been using, and I'll continue to use it for Timothée Chalamet. And I think the movie is extremely effective. I think ultimately it is a very specific type of movie, and you have to be in the mood for that. And I don't think it always will be for me, so that keeps it from 5 stars all around. But I do agree with about 4.5 stars. Although it didn't make my top 10, which was controversial. My top 10. I think I need a top 10 2.0.
I think you do too.
Because sentimental value is just still what an oversight for me.
That's crazy.
Yeah, F1
That's crazy.
is definitely leaving that top 10. The more I revisit
I
it.
forgot that was in your top 10.
I had a good time.
come on.
What a
Come
monster.
I had a good time, okay?
That
That was me doing my top 10. It was just me. I need Coolin for sure. Okay, now double feature?
Yes, now we can double
Third time's a
feature.
charm. All right, so Tim, we like to do a thing on here where we recommend a double feature, a second movie that would be paired well with this. Since you're our guest of honor, would you like to go first with your double feature?
Ooh, I'd love to. Especially because we talked about earlier, I was a little nervous you and I would maybe pick the same one.
Right.
But I don't think we will, from what else we spoke about it. But yes, my double feature I would put with Marty Supreme. And I think Kyle would be, if you haven't seen this, I imagine you maybe have, but if you haven't seen it, this gives you like the Marty Supreme, like watching one person go through this crazy stuff, but isn't as stressful. So it's Scorsese's After Hours.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, I have not seen this.
Have you seen it, Ryan?
I haven't. I really want to, though.
This is one of the greatest movies of all time, in my opinion. It's probably, if I had to do it, probably in my top 5, next to Rebel Ridge, which I just rewatched, and that movie is still fantastic.
Perfect.
But yeah, it stars, what's his name? He's the man. He just showed up in Not Stealing, and he is. I'm pulling it up here.
Griffin Dune?
Griffin Dunn. Yeah, Griffin.
Sorry, Dunn. Yeah.
So it's a businessman in New York who just goes out one night, and it follows just it's the whole one crazy night thing, and takes place in like the seedy part of New York, which obviously it's in the 70s, so 2 decades after when Marty Supreme takes place, but it has that same sort of like really griminess, even more so, right? It gets a little more grimy, I think, when it goes into the 70s. And it's just he's going to diners, he's going to bars, he's getting chased out of things, people are dying, he's going to nightclubs, going to punk shows, and he's just trying to get home. It's the whole thing. It's homeward bound. He's just trying to get to his house, and he just keeps getting thrown into these other crazy situations. And I'm pretty sure I heard Josh Safdie cite this as like a inspo for the movie, but I think they would pair really nice together as kind of Shot being Marty and then Chaser being After Hours, because like I said, it's not that stressful. I think it's more just like you like watching the story, it's enjoyable, and the character's fun to watch, just kind of bounce through these scenarios.
That's a great
nice
pick. It's funny how timed that is, because my buddy Anthony just rated After Hours on Letterboxd, so he just watched it like last night or this weekend. So I had to double check. I was like, did Tim just watch this and then rated it? But no, it was my buddy Anthony. So very prevalent. That's an amazing pick.
Yeah, excellent. I'm gonna check it out.
I almost picked it up on Criterion last week, but that's because I'm trying to fill out my Scorsese collection. I'm trying to do the directors, where it's like, well, hey, I need this director, all their movies, and what I can get on Criterion. Scorsese, as of this year, Killers of the Flower Moon is going to be on Criterion, so I can keep that going.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
Good point.
Kyle, do you want to go next?
Yeah, so I went with a film that I think also follows a anti-hero who I wouldn't call an anti-hero, straight up a villain that you're supposed to root for, but by the end of it, you're like, I kind of hope you don't win this ping pong tournament, Timothy. But for me, I went with 1983's Scarface.
Oh.
You're following Tony Montana, notorious drug lord, gangster. He's awful. He's terrible to everybody in that movie. He's doing more blatantly evil things in that movie than Marty is, like, cutting people up with a chainsaw. But I think that kind of follows the same concept of, like, this is just, he's not a great guy, and he's striving for greatness all around. Yeah, it's a villain's movie, and that's how I feel about it.
I mean, those are great picks, because I think it speaks totally to the drive of the character of, like, we want to find someone who couldn't be reprehensible, could just be like, a troubled individual. But those are really great serious picks. One day I'll get there.
Ryan?
Oh, no.
Ryan, before you say yours, I just want to throw out real quick another one that came to mind for me, that when Kyle started explaining or introing his pick, I was curious if you were going to pick it. Mm-hmm. And I think it won't be yours, Ryan, but the documentary Free Solo.
Oh, yeah. Oh. That's not my pick.
That guy is an anti-hero. His girlfriend's like, I'm worried about you. He's like, shut up. I'm going to climb this big mountain.
It's, recently he climbed the 101 in Taipei? Is that what it's called?
That was on Netflix, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was shocked to see that they are now married with kids.
Yeah,
like,
that's wild.
What a woman,
I mean,
to stick by him. Did you see the thing where after he climbed, she's like, say hi to the kids, and he's like, they're not watching, and she's like, but they will one day, and he's like, they're not watching. Hi, and he's like really annoyed about it.
I think it'd be great if his kids were named like Fiji and Everest, or like something where it's just like, I just can't stop thinking about that mountain.
Yeah.
For my double feature, I picked a movie that I looked at Marty Supreme, and I saw the obstacles and the adventures and the characters that someone would meet along the way of like a singular journey of, how dedicated they were to get to a certain point or get something back, and the characters that they meet. And I am, of course, referring to the 1985 Tim Burton classic Pee-wee's Big Adventure. This is kind of a zag, but I also really stand by it. I think that the zaniness that Marty gets into in this movie does kind of match, obviously, a comedic difference in Pee-wee's Big Adventure, but I think that it kind of plays a similar way to me, where it's kind of like, hey, I met Wally, and then I met Kevin O'Leary, and then I met Gwyneth Paltrow, and then I got into this crazy situation in a hotel, and now I'm in Japan about to kiss a pig. And there's a lot of things happening that just feel very much like, how did Paul Rubens get into this situation? Obviously, a very different movie in tone, but to Kyle's point, I think it's a welcomed shift. I think that the shot of Marty Supreme, to Tim's analogy there, is the chaser of Pee-wee's Big Adventure as the relief, right? Like the sigh of relief from like a big inhale of Marty Supreme. So that would be my earnest suggestion, a bit different, a bit of a zag from the tone you guys had suggested, but I do legitimately think that's a good pairing.
I really like that. I could see Marty Mauser sitting down to watch a movie about his life and then walking out halfway and being like, I don't have to see it. I've lived it.
I mean, at the end of the day, what is Marty Mauser but a loner and a rebel?
Yeah. Dottie.
Good point.
Great pick.
Thank
Solid.
you.
I love it.
Great pairs all around.
That's a great movie, too. It's so good.
It's one of Tim's all-time favorites.
It's
Burton?
the goat for me, yeah.
So, well, true. It's your favorite Tim Burton, right?
Yeah, but it's probably my favorite movie of all time. I think it's a masterpiece.
Wow.
Tim has a tattoo of not Big Adventure, but of Holiday. Is that right?
Yes, the one that Judd Apatow, did he direct it or just produce it?
Produced it.
Produced it.
Can't remember.
Yeah, and it was that's I have the tattoo of the initials of something he says. This woman is trying to talk to him and he's not interested, and she says, she's like, please just like give me some time, Pee Wee, and he's like, IHTT I think is what it is or whatever. Or I forget what the number. It's somewhere on my leg, but it's look at the time I have to be going.
What a treasure.
It's so good,
man.
I'm so glad we had Paul Rubens when we did. Yeah, look, hey Tim, thank you for joining us. It was awesome to have you on here. I really appreciate you coming on to talk about movies in general, which is one of my favorite things to do with you. But I know you have a very storied knowledge of the history of the Safdies and everything they've done. So I appreciate you coming on to share that. Where can everyone check you out to hear more from you?
Yeah, thank you guys for having me on. This was very fun.
Yeah.
Find me on Letterboxd at Chromdar, Chromdar, which is the name I go by for. I have a radio show called The Chromdar Hour in Savannah, Georgia. You can listen to online every Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern, where I have musicians, artists. I've had one director so far, Damian McCarthy, who did some awesome movies, and he has an oddity, and he has a movie coming out called Hokum with Adam Scott. He's the man. And yeah, you can find me there and on socials as well at the Chromdar Hour. And
anyone who's not in Savannah can listen to that through the RUU web or WRUU website, right?
Yeah, WRUU.org streams live on the website.
We'll share that link on the podcast website
for sure.
For everyone to check out. But it's a great show. I mean, I've been on it, so I have some personal stake in it. But no, I love listening to it every Thursday at 9 p.m. It really is. We mentioned Pee Wee's Big Adventure. It really is kind of like the Pee Wee's Playhouse of like radio shows. But like there's actual like great music and interviews with like directors and musicians. So well worth your time to check out.
Nice. I'll definitely be checking it out.
And heck yeah, we'll have to have you guys on to talk about the Oscars closer to the date.
We'll be there.
Yeah, just let us know.
We'll be happy to drop some hot takes, answer any questions you have.
Well, cool. That's going to do it for this episode of the podcast and Marty Supreme. If you have any thoughts about this film or any of the other nominations this year, shoot us an email over at outaopodcast@gmail.com. If you would like to support the show, check out patreon.com/outaopodcast. We have a watch party coming up. That watch party is going to be Friday, February 27th at 8 p.m. If you want to gain access to the community Discord server, you can gain that access without any monetary donation or whatever. You do not have to back us for the dollar amount, which we usually require. We're running a promo right now. Just follow the page for free, and you will get access to that Discord. I've decided that I'm going to run that promotion until the Academy Awards.
Oh, March 15th.
Yeah, and Perfect. Just do it that way. So, again, if you want access to the Discord, just follow us on Patreon for free. You can join in the conversation. Ryan's posting movie reviews there of just whatever he happens to catch that week. And then on the Patreon as well, I am doing my weekly Death Race recap, just going over everything I've watched that week for the Academy Awards leading up to the Oscar ceremony.
God bless you for that.
Yeah. Thank you again so much, Tim, for coming on the show. We've loved having you, but that's going to do it. As always, I'm your host, Kyle.
And I was born in 1601. I'm a vampire.
And we'll see you at the movies.